I don't think most people realize this when they first get into trading, but there's always a very specific phase, a painful phase, that every successful trader has to survive before things finally start to click. I'm talking about the phase where nothing seems to go right, your confidence gets destroyed over and over again, and you start questioning whether you're even built for this.
I went through it. The people in my trading community went through it. My mentor went through it. Every single trader I've ever known who eventually became consistent went through it. And honestly, most people quit during this phase. Not because they're weak, not because they don't want it enough, but because they don't understand that this is part of the journey. Nobody warns you about it. Nobody prepares you for it. Everyone talks about the success, the profits, the passive income, the freedom, but no one talks about the emotional hell you walk through. Before you get any of that, today I want to tell you the truth about that phase. What it looks like, what it feels like, and the stories of real people I've seen go through it and come out the other side. And I want to tell you the things my mentor told me during some of the darkest moments of my trading life. Conversations that stuck with me years later. Because if you're in this phase right now, I promise you, you're not alone. You're not broken. You're not failing. You're actually right on schedule. Let's talk about it. There's one specific conversation I'll never forget. Something my mentor told me early on when I was frustrated, confused, losing money, and feeling like I was doing everything wrong. I remember sitting with him one evening after blowing yet another small account. I was embarrassed. I didn't even want him to know how bad I'd messed up. And he looked at me and said, "Every trader goes through 3 phases. The fun phase, the painful phase, and the profitable phase. Most people never make it past phase 2. I didn't really get it at the time, but now I do. The fun phase is the beginning, the phase where every chart looks like an opportunity. Every win feels like a sign that you're about to become the next trading genius. You're excited. Everything feels possible. And then reality hits. You take losses you didn't expect. You blow money faster than you thought possible. You start to realize that this isn't easy at all. You start questioning yourself constantly. That's when you enter the painful phase. Let me tell you a story about a guy in my community. His name was Jordan. He was one of those people who came into trading full of confidence. Smart guy, disciplined guy, worked a good job, studied hard. Everyone around him believed he'd succeed quickly. He didn't. His first 6 months were brutal. Every time he'd win, he'd lose twice as much the next day. Every time he got a little bit ahead, something would happen. A news candle, a wick, a mistake, and he'd fall right back below zero. I remember one day he messaged me and said, "Bro, I'm doing everything right. I don't understand why I'm still losing. Is this normal?" And I told him something my mentor once told me. You're not doing everything right yet. You're doing everything you think is right. The market hasn't humbled you enough yet to make you listen. He didn't like hearing that. I wouldn't have liked hearing it back then either. But it was true. See, the painful phase forces you to confront things you don't want to confront. Your bad habits, your impatience, your ego, your expectations, your emotional triggers, your lack of discipline. Trading exposes everything you try to hide from yourself. And Jordan went through it. Hard. There was a day, I remember it clearly, when he lost 4 trades in a row. Not because his strategy failed, but because the second he took one loss, he completely fell apart emotionally. He got angry, started chasing trades, started taking setups that weren't even real setups, started increasing his lot size just to get it back. By the time he stopped, He'd blown half his account. He called me. He was frustrated, embarrassed, angry at himself, and I told him, "You're in the painful phase. Everyone who doesn't quit survives this eventually." And he said something that hit me. Why doesn't anyone talk about this part? Why don't people talk about how mentally draining this is? Because, honestly, this phase is ugly. It's not inspiring. It's not glamorous. It's not something you put on Instagram. Nobody posts. Day 42, cried in the bathroom after losing another trade. Or, Day 67, blew my third account this month. Or, Day 129, realized I have no idea what I'm doing and considered quitting again. But those moments, those are the exact moments that build real traders. Let me tell you another story. This one about someone I knew personally before he ever touched trading. His name was Malik. He started trading because he wanted more for his family. He wasn't chasing Lambos or flexing. He just wanted a better life. But man, trading tested him harder than anything else in his life. Malik had a pattern. Every time he'd learn something new, a new setup, a new strategy, a new indicator, he'd think he found the solution. He'd get excited, start winning a little, and then reality would punch him in the face again. I remember one week where he took everything seriously, journaled every trade, studied every night, reviewed his sessions, stayed disciplined. He made $600 that week. You couldn't tell him nothing. He thought he finally cracked the code. The next week, he lost $1,200. He called me and said, "Bro, I think I'm cursed. I think trading isn't for me." And I laughed, not to make fun of him, but because I knew this moment. I remember my mentor saying the exact same thing to me after a losing streak. You're not cursed. You're just early. And early traders always pay the tuition. You pay with frustration, confusion, self-doubt, discipline tests, humility, patience. You pay with the parts of yourself that aren't ready to become a successful trader yet. Let me tell you something my mentor said that stuck with me for life. You don't become profitable when you master your strategy. You become profitable when your emotional maturity catches up. And man, he was right. Another guy in my community, his name was Ethan, one of the smartest dudes I've ever met. Math genius, logical thinker. He picked up chart patterns faster than anyone, but he had zero emotional control. Anytime he was up in a trade, he'd panic and close early. Anytime he took a loss, he'd freeze. Anytime he saw a big move he missed, he'd chase it. His intelligence wasn't the problem. His emotions were. He told me something I've heard dozens of traders say. I know exactly what I'm supposed to do. I just don't do it. That's the painful phase. The phase where your knowledge is ahead of your discipline. The phase where your brain understands trading, but your emotions don't. And that disconnect, that's where all the pain comes from. Another story. This one might hit home for a lot of you. There was a woman in my community named Sophia. Very quiet, very disciplined in life, worked a stable job, and she approached trading like school. Methodical, organized, took notes, studied hard. But trading broke her in ways she didn't expect. She struggled with holding losing trades too long, not because she thought they'd turn around, but because she didn't want to feel the pain of being wrong. One day, she held a losing trade for 3 hours. It was supposed to be a scalp. She watched it go deeper and deeper, negative, refusing to close it. By the time she finally accepted it, she'd lost 8% of her account. She messaged me, and I'll never forget what she said. I feel like trading exposes parts of me I didn't know existed. And she was right. Trading exposes your insecurities, your pride, your stubbornness, your impulsiveness, your emotional habits. It forces you to confront things you avoid in regular life. That's why the painful phase is so painful. It isn't the money you lose. It's the parts of yourself you come face to face with. Let me tell you a personal moment, one I'm not proud of, but it's part of my journey. There was a time early in my trading career when I blew an account out of pure stupidity, not because of strategy, not because of lack of knowledge, but because I got emotional over a loss I shouldn't have taken personally. I remember calling my mentor, expecting him to tell me what to fix. Instead, he asked me a question. Why did you take that trade? I tried to explain the setup, the reasoning, the logic, but he cut me off. No, not the chart. Why did you take that trade? What was the emotion behind it? That question humbled me, because the truth was, I took it because I felt impatient. I felt like I needed a win. I felt like the market owed me. He told me something I still repeat to traders today. Most trades aren't taken because of setups. They're taken because of emotional discomfort. That right there is the painful phase. The phase where you think trading is about charts, but you slowly realize it's actually about you. Let me tell you about another trader. This guy was named Raymond. Old school dude, been through a lot in life, but he struggled with one thing, overconfidence. He'd have a great week, and then the next week he'd completely fall apart because he'd start taking random trades thinking he was unstoppable. One week he made $2,000. The next week he lost $3,400. And when he messaged me, he said something I'll never forget. It feels like trading punishes me for feeling good. And I told him, it's not punishing you for feeling good. It's punishing you for forgetting the rules when you feel good. The painful phase teaches you that success in trading isn't about feeling confident. It's about staying disciplined whether you feel confident or not. There's a guy named Drew, a younger trader in my community, and he struggled big time with comparing himself to others. He'd see other traders posting profits, wins, big moves they caught, and he'd beat himself up for not performing the same way. One night, he messaged me and said, "Everyone around me is winning except me. Maybe I'm just not built for this." And I told him something my mentor told me back in the day. You never see people's painful phase on social media. You only see their highlight reel. Don't compare your chapter 2 to their chapter 10. Usually, the traders who look the most successful now went through hell before. Let me tell you something that might shock you. Every consistently profitable trader I've ever met has cried over trading at least once. Every single one. Not because they lost money, though that's part of it, but because trading pushed them emotionally to a place they'd never been before, a place where they doubted themselves, a place where they questioned everything, a place where they felt completely lost. If you're there right now, congratulations. You're in the painful phase, and that means you're exactly where you're supposed to be. Let me tell you a story from my own life, something that taught me the importance of patience in a way nothing else ever had. There was a point where I was making progress, slow progress, but progress, and then I hit a plateau, a long, frustrating plateau where I wasn't getting worse, but I wasn't getting better either. I remember complaining to my mentor saying, "It feels like I'm stuck, like I'm just spinning my wheels." And he told me, plateaus are where mastery is developed. Anyone can improve when things are exciting. Only real traders improve when nothing is happening. I didn't get it at the time, but he was right. The painful phase is also the plateau phase, the phase where you're not a beginner anymore, but you're not profitable either. You're in the middle, and the middle sucks. It feels like you're working and studying and grinding, but not seeing anything change. That's the part where most people quit. But here's the truth. Nothing is happening on the outside, but everything is happening on the inside. You're rewiring your habits. You're training your emotional reactions. You're strengthening your discipline. You're developing patience. You're learning to detach from outcomes. You're learning to manage impulse. Those things don't show up in your PL right away. They show up later when you finally make the shift from emotional trading to disciplined trading. Let me tell you about another trader. Her name was Brianna, and Brianna was one of the hardest workers I've ever seen. Every day she studied, every day she journaled, every day she practiced, every day she back-tested. But no matter what, she couldn't stay consistent. She'd make money Monday, lose it Tuesday, make money Wednesday, lose it Thursday, and she felt defeated. She felt like she wasn't improving at all. One day she told me, "I don't understand. I'm working so hard. Why is nothing changing?" You stop making the same mistakes. You start seeing the chart with more clarity. You start trusting your process. You start thinking like a trader instead of a gambler. Change in trading happens slowly, and then all at once. Brianna went through that shift. One day she messaged me and said, "Something clicked today. I didn't overtrade. I didn't chase. I didn't panic. I felt calm." And from that day forward, she never returned to who she used to be. Let me tell you something my mentor told me that stuck with me for years. The market forces you to become the person you need to be before it gives you the results you want. And that's why the painful phase exists. Not to punish you, not to discourage you, not to break you. It exists to shape you. It exists to turn you into someone who can take a loss without falling apart, hold a winner without panicking, wait patiently without forcing a trade, avoid chasing, stop revenge trading, control your emotions, trust your strategy, focus on long-term consistency instead of short-term dopamine. The painful phase builds those qualities. Qualities you can't fake, qualities you can't skip. Let me tell you something else my mentor said. Something that honestly carried me through some hard trading seasons. Most traders aren't struggling because they're doing things wrong. They're struggling because they haven't done things right long enough. Consistency isn't built in a week. Discipline isn't built in a month. Emotional control isn't built quickly. You have to go through cycles. You have to experience setbacks. You have to learn from mistakes. You have to be humbled. You have to be tested. The painful phase is where trading stops being a hobby and becomes a transformation. Let me give you one last story. One I think perfectly captures the painful phase. There was a guy named Sergio in my Discord. He'd been trading for 3 years, constantly in the cycle of almost success. He'd improve for a while, then fall apart again. Up, down, over and over. One day, he messaged me and said, "I'm tired, man. I'm emotionally drained. I feel like I'm climbing a mountain that never ends." And I told him, "You're not climbing the mountain. You are the mountain. You're not battling the market. You're battling yourself." He didn't respond for a while, but 2 hours later, he messaged me back and said, "That finally makes sense." Because that's the truth nobody tells you, surety. Trading is 10% strategy and 90% who you become in the painful phase. The market will break you down. Not to destroy you, but to rebuild you into someone who can handle success. It's not supposed to be easy. It's supposed to be transformational. So if you're in that phase right now, if you feel discouraged, if you feel stuck, if you feel like you're failing, if you feel like you're not improving, if you feel like you're doing everything right but nothing is changing, listen to me. You're not failing. You're evolving. You're becoming. You're being shaped. And one day, I promise you, something will click. And when it does, you'll look back at this painful season and realize, this was the moment that built you. This was the moment that made you. This was the moment that separated you from everyone who quit. The painful phase is not a sign that trading isn't for you. It's the sign that trading is for you. Because if it wasn't, you wouldn't be here fighting for it. This is Trader's Mind TV, where we talk about the part of trading nobody else talks about. Master the mind, and the markets will follow.